Good morning, everyone. Good day, everyone. Depends upon wherever you are joining us from today. Would like to officially welcome you all to the yet another open event of the NG Tag. Today, we're going to be focusing on traceability in the grape and wine industry, especially with emphasis on the cross-border trade. For a quick intro, I'm Ram Makalla. I'm one of the co-chairs of the National GS1 Traceability Advisory Group here in Australia. And I officially like to welcome you all to this open event. Today, as always, we have a very jam-packed agenda, and I'd like to probably give you a very quick rundown of what it is before we start the proceedings. Before we do that, I'd like to officially acknowledge the country, and I'd like to formally begin by traditionally acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. And to continue further, I'd like to give you a very quick update on some of the key aspects. We're pretty much familiar these days with so many webinars and virtual meetings we are being part of. So first things first, obviously, I'd like you to give your next 90 minutes of your time to be present with us and be active and participate in the discussions that we'll have on the traceability in the flavor and wine grape industry. I'd like you to stay on mute and also switch the camera off unless you are actually speaking on the screen. Please feel free to use the chat function, whether you want to ask a question or put your hand up or share some comments on the topics we're discussing. Most importantly, I'd like you to remind you all that the session will be recorded, and this is for the minute taking and also to drive certain actions out of this open event. For those who are new to these open events and are probably new to the NG Tag itself, I'd like to give you a very quick update on what NG Tag is about. So NG Tag was established back in September of 2020. So we are actually 20 months in running. Today is the 7th open event. There are 6 such events happened in the past on various different topics. The main purpose of the NG Tag is to progress, have a dialogue, and then progress on traceability to advance the supply chains in Australia, whether it's domestic or global. So we have a rich membership here with 100 plus different associations and different commercial entities and government agencies part of the NG Tag. And we are very active. And if you are new to NG Tag, I request you to reach out to the NG Tag Secretariat and be part of this discussion and dialogue to drive the action. For today's purpose, I would like to mention special thanks to Australian Table Wine, thank you, Australian Table Grape Association, and a number of associations include Accolade Wines, Agriculture Victoria, etc. I'll do a formal thanks at the end of the session again. As I mentioned before, today it's a jam-packed agenda. We have got some rich speakers and also panelists joining us today to discuss on the state of traceability in the Table Grapes and Wine Association and the industries that are part of that. First, I'd like to share a couple of key speakers that you'll be listening to today, starting with Liz from GS1 US, and she's going to take us on what's happening on a global side. Following that, we are very fortunate to have the Minister for Agriculture and Regional Development from Victorian Government, Honorary Marianne Thomas, joining us at 11:30, and then we'll hear from her at 11:30. Following that, we'll have keynote speakers who will be listening from Carolyn Barrett and Taryn Milner on what's happening on one of the key projects that AgWic and Australian Table Grape Association is focused on in the recent days. Following that, we'll have a very engaging panel discussion, and then I'll close the meeting. I hope to keep it on time. So to proceed further, I'd like to invite Jonathan Bridge to moderate the session. Before I do that, I'd like to do a quick introduction of Jonathan. Jonathan is the Global Head of Regulatory Affairs and Compliance for Accolade Wines. He's been in the wine industry focusing on this quality, compliance, and government affairs for the past 14 years. and he serves on a number of domestic and international wine industry trade and technical committees as well. Prior to joining the wine industry, he has spent his time in the pharmaceutical industry for over 10 years, again focused on the regulatory affairs and industry association roles. He holds a master's degree in health sciences, postgraduate qualifications in drug development, a graduate diploma in herbal medicine, and also a diploma of wine law. Very exciting personality and a lot to actually learn from. Jonathan, I'd like to officially welcome you today to moderate today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. I'm just trying to, there we go. Thank you very much, Ram. On behalf of GS1 Australia and all the presenters and speakers on the panel today, thank you all for making the time to join us to discuss the manner in which the commercial and regulatory expectations around traceability in domestic and international trade are having some very tangible effects upon the operational aspect of the wine industry and table grape suppliers. Depending on your role, traceability can and frequently does mean a lot of very different things to different people. For a producer, it can very much center around the initial supply chain integrity. So the geographical sourcing of your grapes, the evidence and rate of agrochemical applications, the supply of such grape through third-party suppliers, not under your control, the source and standards for key additives and processing aids that you use in the production of wine. And of course, the safety and legal checks for compliance that a wine will undergo prior to market entry. For a regulator, they may share some similar concerns, particularly in terms of safety and particularly for forward traceability of movement or even backwards traceability in terms of being able to verify the provenance, the composition, sustainability claims, for instance, that you might make around a wine product. Even for consumers and wine journalists, increasingly there is a growing want in what is written and what is read and understood about wines that are purchased, about where a wine comes from, how it was made, who's made the wine. And now there's a dizzying array of technologies being made available to give that information to wine journalists and to wine consumers themselves, who are also very actively self-educating. I guess a good question is to what degree is some of this technology enabling that thirst for self-education and knowledge, and to what degree some of it might be a barrier as well. So all of these different aspects of traceability, which will be dealt with in different ways by our presenters and our panelists later in the session. We'll look at the potential regulatory burdens and the market opportunities that global data standards around traceability may present. Are they providing sufficient speed to market? And if not, why not? What's stopping it from doing so? And as a consequence, is there opportunities for GS1 Australia, industry and government to look to develop solutions to address some of these issues and improve the use of traceability in international and other forms of cross-border trade? We will be hearing from our three keynote speakers who I'll present just in a second. We would usually be commencing with an official welcome from the Honorary Mary Ann Thomas, Minister for Agriculture and Minister for Regional Development in Victoria Agriculture. She is unfortunately going to be delayed very briefly, but will be joining us soon. So that will happen after the first speaker to give the official welcome. In the meantime, just to introduce our three keynote speakers. The first will be Liz Sertle, who is Senior Director for Community Engagement, GS1 in the US. Liz Sertle is a Senior Director at GS1 US and has more than 25 years of experience in the CPG industry. Closely working with supply chain partners, she facilitates cross-industry collaboration that helps companies improve product traceability and supply chain visibility through the broad adoption of GS1 standards. We will then follow with Terry Milner, Communications Manager for Australian Table Grapes Association. She's been communicating with and on behalf of the nation's table grape growers and supply chain members for almost 3 years. Taryn values the importance of sharing news, stories and information and building strong, informed and engaged communities. She has a background in writing and editing and has worked in the news media, media production and publishing industries. Third, we'll have Caroline Barrett, Program Manager for Traceability at Agriculture Victoria. Caroline has a wide experience in the food industry with previous roles in corporate affairs at Mars and as a board member of PrimeSafe, the Victorian regulator for food safety in the meat and seafood industries. In addition to her commercial experience, Caroline has strong scientific backgrounds in previous roles as a veterinary pathologist in diagnostic laboratories and as a veterinarian in practice as well. I welcome all three of our speakers, and we will commence with a presentation from Liz Sertle. Thank you very much, Liz.